Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into something a little more chilling than our usual travel tips and destination guides. Grab your popcorn and maybe a flashlight because we're exploring an Airbnb horror story that will make you think twice before booking your next stay. Let's get into it. Story number 1. The first night, you hear strange noises coming from the attic. You brush it off as the house settling or maybe a squirrel. But the next morning, you find scratch marks on the walls that weren't there before. Now you're starting to feel uneasy. You decide to check the attic, just to put your mind at ease. But what you find up there is far from reassuring. Old, dusty furniture, peculiar symbols drawn on the floor, and a creepy old doll staring back at you. You quickly retreat downstairs, trying to convince yourself it's just old junk left behind by previous owners. At night, the noises get louder. Footsteps echoing through the halls, doors creaking open and closed, and faint whispers you can't quite make out. You decide to call the host, but there's no answer. You send a message through the Airbnb app, but hours pass with no response. You try to sleep, but it's impossible with the constant disturbances. Then, in the dead of night, you see it, a shadowy figure standing at the foot of your bed. You blink, and it's gone. Heart pounding, you decide enough is enough. You pack your bags and leave in the middle of the night. Next day, you finally get a reply from the host. They apologize and offer a refund, explaining that the cottage has a history and that they're looking into the disturbances, but for you, the damage is done. What was supposed to be a relaxing getaway turned into a nightmare you'll never forget. So, what can we learn from this Airbnb horror story? Always do thorough research, read every review carefully, and trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. And remember, sometimes the cheapest or most charming place might come with its own hidden costs. Read every review carefully and trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. And remember, sometimes the cheapest or most charming place might come with its own hidden costs. Story number 2. Our story begins with a couple, Emma and Mike, looking for a romantic getaway. They find this gorgeous beach house on Airbnb. The reviews are stellar, the host is friendly, and the location looks perfect for a weekend escape. They book it, pack their bags, and head off for what they hope will be a dreamy beach vacation. When they arrive, the house is even better than expected. Stunning ocean views, a private beach, and beautifully decorated interiors. They settle in, pop open a bottle of wine, and start to unwind. Everything seems perfect until the first night. That night, Emma wakes up to the sound of someone crying. At first, she thinks it's just the sound of the waves, but the crying gets louder and more distinct. She wakes Mike, and they both listen intently. The sound seems to be coming from the direction of the beach. They step outside, flashlights in hand, and follow the eerie sound. As they approach the shoreline, the crying suddenly stops. They look around, but see nothing unusual. Shaken, they return to the house, trying to convince themselves it was just their imagination. Next day, they explore the area and ask a few locals if they've ever heard anything strange at night. The locals exchange uneasy glances and mention that the house has a tragic history. Years ago, a woman who lived there lost her child in a drowning accident and was often heard crying on the beach at night. That night, the crying returns, louder and more desperate than before. Emma and Mike decide they've had enough. They pack their things and leave in the middle of the night, driving to the nearest hotel to escape the unsettling sounds. The next day, they contact the host and explain what happened. The host is apologetic and offers a partial refund, admitting that they've heard similar complaints from other guests. The beach house, despite its beauty, seems to be haunted by the grief of its past. So, what's the takeaway from Emma and Mike's terrifying experience? Sometimes, even the most beautiful places can have dark secrets. Always do your research, trust your gut, and be prepared to leave if something feels off. Your safety and peace of mind are more important than a perfect vacation photo. Story number 3. Meet Sarah, an avid hiker and nature enthusiast. She decides to book a secluded mountain cabin for a solo retreat, hoping to disconnect from the chaos of everyday life and reconnect with nature. The listing promises breathtaking views, total privacy, and a cozy, rustic charm. Sarah is sold and quickly makes the reservation. When she arrives, the cabin is everything she hoped for. Nestled deep in the woods, it boasts stunning panoramic views of the mountains and a serene, tranquil atmosphere. Sarah spends the day hiking and taking in the beauty of her surroundings. As night falls, she settles in with a good book and a cup of tea, feeling completely at peace. But as midnight approaches, Sarah begins to hear strange noises outside. At first, she thinks it's just the wind rustling through the trees or maybe an animal passing by. But then, she hears what sounds like footsteps crunching on the gravel path leading to the cabin. Peering out the window, she sees nothing but darkness. The footsteps stop, and an eerie silence follows. She tries to shake off her unease and goes back to her book. But the feeling of being watched lingers. That night, Sarah has trouble sleeping. She hears faint whispers, almost as if someone is murmuring, just outside the cabin. She tells herself it's her imagination playing tricks on her and eventually drifts off to sleep. The next day, Sarah decides to stay close to the cabin, still feeling unsettled from the night before. She spends the day reading and writing in her journal, but she can't shake the feeling that something. As evening falls, the noises return. This time, they're louder and more distinct. Footsteps, whispers, and what sounds like someone tapping on the windows. Sarah's heart races as she locks all the doors and windows, trying to convince herself that it's just her imagination. In a panic, she calls the host, but there's no answer. She leaves a message, hoping for a quick response. The night drags on, each sound amplifying her fear. Just when she thinks she can't take it anymore, her phone rings. It's the host. The host apologizes profusely and reveals a chilling secret. The cabin has a dark history of previous guests experiencing similar disturbances. Some even reported seeing shadowy figures and hearing disembodied voices. The host offers a full refund and advises Sarah to leave immediately if she feels unsafe. Sarah doesn't need to be told twice. She packs her belongings and leaves the cabin, driving through the night until she reaches the safety of a nearby town. Exhausted and shaken, she checks into a hotel, grateful to be away from the eerie mountain cabin. So, what can we learn from Sarah's terrifying experience? Sometimes, even the most idyllic locations can hide dark secrets. Always read reviews thoroughly, ask the host about the property's history, and trust your instincts. If something feels off, it's better to be safe than sorry. Story number 4. Meet Alex, a young professional who's always on the move. He decides to book a trendy apartment in the heart of the city for a week-long business trip. The listing has glowing reviews, modern amenities, and is conveniently located near his meetings. Alex books it without hesitation, excited for a productive and comfortable stay. When he arrives, the apartment is exactly as advertised: bright, spacious, and impeccably clean. Alex unpacks, grabs a bite to eat, and heads out for his first meeting. Everything seems to be going perfectly, but on his first night, things start to get strange. As Alex is getting ready for bed, he hears a faint tapping sound coming from the wall. He brushes it off as city noise and goes to sleep. But the tapping continues, and it's getting louder. The next morning, Alex asks the building manager about the noise. The manager looks puzzled and assures him that the walls are soundproof and no one else has reported any issues. Alex shrugs it off and heads to his meetings, hoping it was just a one-time thing. That night, the tapping returns, louder and more insistent. Alex decides to investigate. He follows the sound to a small closet near the bathroom. Inside, he finds nothing unusual, but the noise seems to be coming from behind the wall. Feeling unnerved, Alex contacts the host and explains the situation. The host apologizes and offers to send a maintenance worker to check it out the next day. Alex agrees and tries to get some sleep, but the noise continues to disturb him. The next day, the maintenance worker arrives and inspects the closet. After a thorough examination, he finds a hidden panel. Behind it is a small, narrow crawl space. The worker climbs in to investigate further and discovers something truly disturbing. He finds old, worn-out personal items and a series of disturbing messages scratched into the walls. It seems that someone had been living in the crawl space, watching the occupants of the apartment through small peepholes. The worker immediately calls the police. The police investigate and confirm that the crawl space was indeed being used by someone, though it's unclear for how long or if they're still around. They advise Alex to find a new place to stay while they continue their investigation. Alex quickly packs his things and moves to a hotel, grateful to be away from the creepy apartment. The host offers a full refund and an apology, but the experience leaves Alex deeply unsettled. So, what can we learn from Alex's terrifying experience? Even the most modern and well-reviewed places can have hidden dangers. Always be vigilant, trust your instincts, and don't hesitate to report anything suspicious. Your safety is always the top priority. Story number 5. Meet Lisa and Tom, a couple looking for a peaceful escape from city life. They find a beautiful farmhouse on Airbnb, complete with stunning views, rustic charm, and promises of tranquility. The reviews are glowing, and the photos look perfect. They book it for a long weekend getaway. When they arrive, the farmhouse is everything they dreamed of. Cozy interiors, a lovely garden, and the serene countryside all around. They settle in and spend the day exploring the nearby trails and enjoying the fresh air. As night falls, Lisa and Tom prepare dinner and relax in front of the fireplace. Everything seems perfect until they hear a faint knocking sound coming from the front door. Thinking it's just a late-night visitor, Tom opens the door, but there's no one there. They brush it off as a prank and go back to their evening. But the knocking returns, this time louder and more insistent. Tom opens the door again, only to find an old, weathered letter on the doorstep. The letter is cryptic, warning them to leave the farmhouse immediately. It speaks of a curse placed on the property and mentions strange occurrences that have happened to previous occupants. Lisa and Tom are unsettled, but try to dismiss it as a hoax. That night, the noises escalate. They hear footsteps on the roof, whispers in the hallways, and the sound of furniture being dragged across the floor. They search the house but find nothing out of place. The unsettling feeling grows stronger. They decide to call the host and explain what's happening. The host sounds genuinely concerned and mentions that the farmhouse has a history of strange events, but nothing dangerous. They offer to refund the booking if Lisa and Tom want to leave early. Lisa and Tom decide they can't stay another night. They pack their bags and leave the farmhouse, driving to the nearest town to find a hotel. As they drive away, they can't shake the feeling that they're being watched. So, what can we learn from Lisa and Tom's terrifying experience? Even the most charming and idyllic places can have dark histories. Always trust your instincts, do your research, and don't hesitate to leave if something feels off. Your peace of mind and safety are more important than a perfect getaway. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you have your own Airbnb horror stories or tips to avoid them, share them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more travel stories and tips. Until next time, stay safe and happy travels.